Welcome to Saint Signs Happening. And this is a free 3 week course. This is week 2, day 3. And we are going to make some more connections. We've been making connections for the past few presentations, and wow, today is no exception. We're going to be making connections between Daniel chapter 11, Revelation chapter 13, and Revelation chapter 17, verses 10 and 11, and Daniel chapter 7, verses 1 through 7, maybe a little bit more. And who knows what else might come up. But man, this is going to be so exciting. And so we're going to jump right in and get started here. So yesterday we went through Daniel chapter 11. And we're going to go through part of it today and then make connections in some other areas here. So um, in Daniel chapter 11, verse 4, it says, "And when he," this is Kamini, "shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken and shall be divided towards the four winds of heaven, and not to his posterity, nor according to his dominion which he ruled. For his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others besides those." And then in verse 5, it says, "And the king of the south shall be strong, and one of his princes, and he shall be strong above him, the king of the south, and have dominion, and this prince, his dominion shall be a great dominion." In verse 6, "And in the end of years they shall join themselves together, for the king's daughter of the south shall come to the king of the north to make an agreement. But she shall fall, but she shall not retain the power of the arm, neither shall he stand." That's the king of the south, shall not stand, "nor the king of the south's arm. But she shall be given up, and they that brought her, and he that begat her, who was the king of the south, and he that strengthened her in these times." So, what we're talking about, as we talked about yesterday, is that after Kamini is broken and Erdogan is broken, yesterday we went into more verses of Daniel chapter 11 that indicate this kingdom of the south is going to include Egypt, it's going to include Israel, it's going to include like the southern part of Iran. And when you look at that geographically, it would make sense that it would include the southern part of Iraq. What we're talking about is after Khomeini is taken out, then that whole region is going to be split up into two countries. And and so, but it keeps on talking about Egypt. And who is the president of Egypt right now? It's Al-Sisi. And so in verse 5, it talks about the king of the south, Al-Sisi, shall be strong. And one of his princes is one of his sons, and he has three. And one of his sons, shall be strong above him, Al-Sisi, and have dominion. And his son's dominion shall be a great dominion. So the king of the south looks to be Al-Sisi. So now we're starting to put names and faces on these individuals that are coming up to fulfill prophecy. And for the king of the north over here, it's going to be one of Al-Sisi's sons, it looks like. And the best candidate I can see right now is Mahmud, and he's about 60 years old. And one of the things about that is, what do you think the chances are that Mahmud has sons? Now, there's a media blackout on Al-Sisi's grandkids. So I cannot find out any details about Mahmoud's kids. And they must be in their 20s or so. Um, what's interesting is that when Mahmoud, for example, when he passes away, then one of his sons becomes the new king of the king of the north. And so if we could find out how many sons he has and what their personalities are like and things like that, we might be able to identify, oh, I bet it's going to be that son. And wouldn't that be interesting? Another layer right there. Okay, so now, um, okay, get right here. Okay, verse 7. So after the king of the south is killed by his son, who is ruling as the king of the north, and after the daughter of the king of the south is murdered by the king of the north, that would make her the king of the north's sister or stepsister. Now, all these murdering this person, family member, things like that, starts to remind me of a Book of Mormon type of story. But when she is killed and when the king is killed, then we pick it up in verse 7. But out of a branch of her roots shall one stand up in his, the king of the south's estate, which shall come with an army and shall enter into the fortress of the king of the north, perhaps Mahmud, and shall deal against them and shall prevail, and shall also carry captive into Egypt their gods with their princesses, with their precious vessels of silver and gold, and he shall continue more years than the king of the north. Really super important to remember that this king over here, the king of the north, and sometimes I'll call him the fifth king, just because it's a succession of 8 kings, um, that king loses vessels of silver and gold. That's an important clue as we go along. Now, verse 9. So the king of the south shall come into his kingdom, the king of the north kingdom, and shall return into his own land, the kingdom of the south. But one of his, the king of the north's sons, shall be stirred up and shall assemble a multitude of great forces, and one shall certainly come and overflow and pass through. Then shall he return to the kingdom of the north and be stirred up even to his own fortress in the kingdom of the north. And the king of the south shall be moved with choler and shall come forth and fight with him, even the new king of the north, which was the son of the first king of the north. And he shall set forth a great multitude. The king of the north is going to set forth a great multitude. But the multitude shall be given into his, the king of the south's hand. And when he, the king of the south, hath taken away the multitude of the kingdom of the north, his heart shall be lifted up, and he shall cast down many 10,000s, but he shall not be strengthened by it. The king of the south is not going to be strengthened by wiping out tens of thousands of people in the kingdom of the north. And you go, why? How can that be that that doesn't make a dent? Look at verse 13. For the king of the north shall return and shall set forth a multitude greater than the former, and shall certainly come after certain years with a great army and much riches. So the question is that what is going on that with this new king of the south, the second king of the new king of the north, the second king of the north, what is going on so that he can have the resources to build up an army greater than before and still have much riches left over? His father had vessels of silver and gold taken from him. So, how does he get all that wealth to build up a better army and still have much riches left over? We're going to find out as we go along. Right now, we got to tell the rest of the story. And in those times there shall be many stand up against the king of the south. Also, the robbers of thy people shall exalt themselves to establish the vision, but they shall fall. So, what is the vision that they're trying to establish? Verse 15. So the king of the north shall come and cast up a mount and take the most fenced cities, and the arms of the south shall not withstand, neither his chosen people. So, chosen people, neither shall there be any strength to withstand. But he that cometh against him, the king of the north, shall do according to his will, and none shall be able to stand before him, the king of the north. And the king of the north, shall stand in the glorious land, which by his hand shall be consumed. What is the glorious land? Israel. Israel. So now we see when it's talking about Egypt after Kamini has been broken, Egypt includes the Holy Land, but it also includes part of Iran. So you can see how I'm making these connections that, well, probably southern Iraq is probably in that geographical area there too. So if Al-Sisi controls that kingdom of the south after Khomeini um, is broken, and then Al-Sisi's son, say Mahmoud, controls the kingdom of the north. What does the boundary of the kingdom of the north look like? Well, we know that when Khomeini gets broken, that Erdogan is also going to get broken too. Maybe not at the same time, but relatively soon, it looks like, from that time. And and when you look at the that Middle East region, not including Saudi Arabia and some, Qatar and things like that, um, Syria uh, has recently been, overthrown. Iraq is still very weak in government. Uh, Gaza is wiped out. And now you have the super force of Turkey, Erdogan, gone. And then you have the super force of Khamenei, he's gone. And so I'm wondering if the thinking is, okay, we're going to redefine the boundaries so that there's not people in Iran who feel like they're going to pick up this flag of Iran and try and build up Iran. Someone's not going to pick up that flag for Turkey and feel like I'm going to build that Ottoman Empire again. Um, they're going to shuffle things up so that there is no more of those countries. And Al-Sisi's responsibility is to make sure that the Egypt area, the Israel province, the Gaza, the Iraq, southern Iran area, that those areas don't cause any more problems. Just knock it off, guys. Knock it off. And to help make sure that the whole region um, just knocks off all the wars and everything, then Syria, Iraq, northern Iran, and Turkey, that region is placed under the kingship of Al-Sisi's son, perhaps Mahmud. And Mahmud's responsibility, for example, is to make sure that Syria doesn't build up weapons and Iraq doesn't build up weapons and Iran doesn't build up weapons and they all get along and they're not fighting against Israel. And Mahmud uh, is, they're banking on Mahmud getting along with his father, Al-Sisi, so that there's peace in that region for a while. But what we're reading here is is that after that while, after the certain years, then perhaps Mahmud uh, is going to fake out his father Al-Sisi in and making the father think that Mahmud is ready to make an agreement. And so Al-Sisi sends over Mahmud's sister or stepsister, um, and um, and then Mahmud, perhaps it's Mahmud, we don't know, um, takes her out, takes out his father, and wow, wow. So that's where we're going with this. So 16 is really key because it helps us to know that the glorious land is now part of Egypt and the kingdom of the south. Now, verse 17, he, the second king of the kingdom of the north, shall also set his face to enter with the strength of his whole kingdom, and upright ones with him, where in the glorious land. Thus shall he do, and he shall give him the daughter of women, corrupting her, but she shall not stand on his side, neither be for him. And after this shall he, the king of the north, turn his face unto the isles, and shall take many. But a prince for his own behalf shall cause the reproach offered by him to cease, and without his own reproach he shall cause it to turn upon him. And then he shall turn his face towards the ford of his own land, the kingdom of the north, but he shall stumble and fall and not be found. And then we have in verse 20, then shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes in the glory of the kingdom. But within few days he shall be destroyed, neither in anger nor in battle. And in his estate shall stand up a vile person, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. We talked about this yesterday's presentation, and if you haven't watched it, I really encourage you to go back and watch it, and you'll get more details. What we're trying to establish right now is that this second king of the north, which I also call is the sixth king, that somehow, some way, he is able to amass within certain years an enormous amount of money to where he has the resources to build this huge army. And he still has much riches left over. And with that army and much riches, he goes over and attacks the kingdom of the south, the Israel area, the glorious land. And once he's accomplished that and he's moved down into that area, then he looks at the isles and he goes and conquers many isles. This guy is he is just out there conquering and conquering and conquering. That's what we want to pick up on. Okay? So now the plot thickens. So, uh, so now we have this king over there, the second king of the north, which I call the sixth king, and now we're going to go into Daniel chapter 7. Now, verses 1 and 2 there is a setup. So let's just go ahead and read it. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matter. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of heaven strove upon the great sea, and four beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made to stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. Now, um, just a spoiler alert here. The angel gives the interpretation in Daniel chapter 7 and says that these four beasts are four kings. Now, when you hear someone giving an interpretation of Daniel chapter 7, and we're going to go more into detail in another day, you pay attention to how they treat the first four beasts. If they look at those beasts as kingdoms, be very, very weary. See, a king only has his one life. A kingdom can have many kings during the course of the kingdom's existence. So that's where a lot of people go down the wrong rabbit hole. And uh, and um, so watch for that. So now the first is like a lion. So I'm thinking, okay, who could that represent? Well, verse 5 kind of gives me a hint. Um, and behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear, and it raised itself on one side, and it had three ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise and devour much flesh. Well, the bear makes me think of Russia and and spoiler alert, these three kings live to see Christ return in power and glory. So, um, so we are really looking for, okay, who are the three leaders that are represented by the lion, bear, and the leopard, and um, and uh, and so I'm thinking that Putin could be the bear king. Um, King Charles could be the lion king, and President Xi could be the leopard. Now, they haven't fulfilled prophecy. It looks like they're in a position to fulfill prophecy. So I got a question mark on them, and we'll have to see if they fulfill prophecy. Now, what's interesting about the bear, which is which would be President Putin, is that bear, that king, has three ribs in his mouth. Well, what's interesting is that uh, Putin had taken over Crimea, and Crimea was just a region of Ukraine. And now Putin has taken over some other regions of Ukraine. And um, and so uh, as time goes on, will Putin take over any other places? And the question is that could three of those regions that Putin has conquered, which are typically Russian friendly, could those regions be the ribs? And could those regions tell Putin, go and devour much flesh? Go for it. Go and conquer. Now, um, let's read verse 6. And after this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had been which had upon the back of it four wings of a fowl. And the beast had also four heads, and dominion was given to it. When you look at China and how China is looking to um, take over Taiwan, which they say is theirs, um, China would like to have other places over there in that area too, I would imagine. So is opportunity going to come to where um, China will be able to expand its dominion? Now, look at this. Verse 7. After this, I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly. And it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. And it had 10 horns. And as I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were three of the first horns plucked up by the root. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. And I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garments was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool, and his throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. Well, as LDS, we know that the Ancient of Days is Adam. So when it's talking about, I beheld till the thrones were cast down and the Ancient of Days descent, that is, um, that's like Adam on Diamond time period. And that is when Christ is getting ready to come back. So we got a nice connection there. But what we want to focus in on um, is Daniel chapter 7, verse 7. It says, after this I saw in the night vision, behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible. And what I wanted you to see is that um, the this second king of the north, over here in Daniel chapter 11, um, what does he do? Well, he has, after certain years, he has much riches and he builds up an army even greater than before. And he goes and he takes over part of the kingdom of the south, primarily over in the glorious land. And then he looks to the isles and he takes many. Well, doesn't that sound like the fourth beast over here in Daniel chapter 7, the dreadful and terrible one? The second king of the north conquers many isles. He's dreadful and terrible. Oh, the plot thickens. But what we're going to do is we're going to go over to Revelation chapter 13. And over here, we get another clue. Verse 1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. Doesn't that sound familiar? And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and his great authority. So, this whole image of the beast, we're going to read in Revelation chapter 17, that whole image of the beast is representing eighth king, the eighth king for the whole image. But as we'll see in Revelation chapter 17, that the seven heads represent two things. They represent a city they represent seven mountains on which uh, the woman sitteth, and the woman is a city that reigns over the kings of the earth. One city reigns over all the kings of the earth, and but the heads also represent seven kings. Five are fallen, one is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the eighth is the beast that was and is not, and is of the seven, and goeth into perdition. So um, the plot thickens. We're going to get more details. Verse 3. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wandered after the beast. So if the beast has seven heads, and if those seven heads represent seven kings, and if one of those heads, or one of the seven kings, gets a deadly wound and yet lives, uh, which one is it? And one of the indications is that all the world wandered after that beast, after the beast, that particular king, one of the seven kings. Verse 4. And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. Well, who's the dragon? That's Satan. And they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemy, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, and blasphemed his name, and his tabernacle, and them that dwelt in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. So not everyone who dwells on the earth going to worship one of these seven heads that had the deadly wound. There's going to be those who have their names written in the book of life, and they're not going to be worshiping him. Well, where are they going to be to where they don't have to worship him? Well, we're going to talk more about that in another lesson. Revelation chapter 13, verse 10. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. John is seeing that there's going to be a time when the saints are going to be called to stand down, stand in holy places. Don't go out and go to battle. If you go out and go to battle after a certain time, then you're going to be getting coalloped, just like you coallop other people. It's going to come back and hit you as well. Now, this is really, really, really important. Verse 11, and I beheld another beast. So there's that beast that has seven heads and 10 horns, but now we learn that there's another beast coming up out of the earth. And he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Well, who's the dragon? That's Satan. How does Satan talk? Smooth, so convincing, so sly. And these two horns, they're not big, they're not huge, like a lamb, not threatening. But look at the power. And these two horns, these two kings, exercise all the power of the first beast before him. Again, we're talking about the beast when one of the heads had the deadly wound and yet lived. And these two horns, these two kings, caused the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. So this is talking about a very specific time. And that very specific time is the time in which one of those seven kings has a deadly wound and yet is healed. Verse 13. And these two kings, doeth great wonders, so that these two kings, maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which these two kings, had power to do in the sight of the beast, the one king of the seven that had the deadly wound. And these two kings, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they, the people who dwell on the earth, should make an image to the beast, one of the seven kings that had this deadly wound, which had the wound by a sword and did live. So now we got a little clue in verse 14 that this deadly wound that this one of the seven kings gets, that is a deadly wound, was done by a sword. So that's going to be interesting to see. In verse 15, and these two kings, had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. We're going to come right back to that. And these two kings, causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or their foreheads, that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Now, in verse 17, it says that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. But remember that back on verse 9, I think we can get out there real quick. Let's see here. Verse verse 8. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, this one of the kings, one of the seven kings, whose names are not written in the book of life, of this lamb slain from the foundation of the world. So when John is seeing that everybody is going to get this mark and everything, yeah, well, everybody except um, those who are for Christ. Isn't that exciting to know that there is going to be a way that those for Christ are not going to have to accept the mark of the beast? I love that. That's great news, guys. Now, um, okay, so there we are. That is Revelation chapter 13, and uh, and so what we're talking about here um, is that oh, is that this is the time when the evil monetary system is set up. Is set up. Now, isn't it interesting in Revelation chapter 17 that there are seven kings, five are fallen, and one is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the eighth, and his other seven, and goeth into perdition. So one of the seven kings gets the deadly wound and yet lives, and then has two kings represented by the lamb that had two horns. And these two kings that represent the horns of the little lamb convince the world that they, the people of the world, should build a monetary system in which the one king that had the deadly wound and yet lived will have control over. That one of seven kings is going to have a lot of power. He's going to control the monetary system that rules over the kings of the earth. Think of the stipend that one king is going to get from all that revenue coming through that one system. So now we have these seven kings over here, and one of them uh, is the one that gets the deadly wound and yet lives, and then has that monetary system set up in which he rolls over. So, can so question is that can it be the first four kings? Nope, because this is uh, Pahlavi, his son Pahlavi. This was Khomeini, and this is Khomeini. And Khomeini is about ready to get broken by Trump. And then the fifth king, it can't be him because he ends up having his vessels of silver or gold taken from him. So it can't be the fifth king. And the angel said that the first five are fallen. Well, what about the seventh king? Well, the seventh king only is king for a few days, and then he is killed. So it can't be the seventh king. So logically, that leaves the king that is. Why did the angel call the sixth king and one is in chapter 17? because just minutes earlier, that angel or another angel was talking to John, as we read in Revelation chapter 13, about the beast. But the angels didn't give the interpretation of what the beast is all about in Revelation chapter 13. That explanation of what that beast is all about is in chapter 17. And so now the mystery is solved. The sixth king is one that's in power when the evil monetary system is set up. And now you can see why the second king of the north, which is also the sixth king, after certain years is able to build up this huge army and still has money left over. But I want you to think about the mindset of the people and also the sixth king. The sixth king, as we learn over here in Daniel chapter 11, this second king of the north, he was battling it out with the king of the south. And the king of the south came over and killed many 10,000s of the kingdom of the north. That looks like a very plausible time in which this king of the north, the sixth king, got that deadly wound with a sword to his head, and yet he lived. And now I could just picture him when, um, well, there's one other thing that we have to throw in here, and that is that if you were to look at the chart, I think we can do that. I think we can do that. Right here. Okay, give me a second. So when you look at this chart, then over here with the sixth king, it's also during the time of the sixth seal event, which is the worst worldwide catastrophic event since the flood of Noah's time. The earth reels to and fro. Every mountain and island are moved out of their places. The waves heave themselves beyond their bounds. And there's so much volcanic activity going on and everything that the sun becomes black as sackcloth of hair. The moon becomes red as blood. So think of all the infrastructure destruction that happens because of that sixth hill event. But remember also that the kings of the earth and the rich men, the chief captains and the mighty men and every bondman and every freeman hid themselves in the dens of the rocks of the mountains. So it takes time to go and hide. So my hunch is that there's going to be um, a heads up that these star-like objects are going to hit the earth by the hundreds. So it could be asteroids or meteorites or something. And think if news came out over the next months that NASA or the president or a whistleblower or an amateur or someone comes out with scientific proof news that we got these asteroids coming our way and they're going to hit Earth in 5 or 6 years from now. Just that news alone would probably crush the economies around the world. So even though the elite are trying to establish the evil monetary system right now, they're going to have a setback because of the Six Hill event. But they're not going to let a crisis go to waste. They're going to say, okay, we can't set it up right now, but a perfect time to set it up would be right after the sixth seal event, when we're going to have some type of system to be able to get back up and running. So we do know it's during the time of the sixth king. And we do know that it's after the sixth seal event. And so all the pieces are um, starting to come together now. Go, oh, that's what's going on. So um, there is so much more to cover, and we're going to see on the next presentation. It's going to be week 2, day 4, and we'll have more connections between Daniel chapter 7 and 11 and Revelation chapter 13 and 17, D&C section 88, and who knows what else. Probably Daniel chapter 8. So, guys, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow on this presentation. And so, thank you so much for being here today. And God bless. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye now.